Mornings starting at 7 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH, Wichita's most listened to sports radio.
I've started listening on the app
while I'm working out.
The Odyssey app is awesome.
Download the Odyssey app and listen anywhere.
Just download that Odyssey app.
97.5 and 1240 KFH. Kansas Fan Headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH Wichita, KNSS HD2 Clearwater, and Odyssey Sports Station.
Hey Wichita, it's Jacob Albrock. Stay right there for the latest breaking in sports talk. It's Sports Daily coming up next exclusively on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
I'm Bridget Condon with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. The Ben Johnson era is officially underway in Chicago. The new head coach was introduced Wednesday at Hallis Hall, becoming the 18th coach in franchise history. Johnson shared his desire to stay in the NFC North, calling it the toughest division in football right now. His message to players, get comfortable being uncomfortable, saying, quote, the bar has been set higher than it's ever been set before. Meanwhile, another former Lions coordinator, Aaron Glenn, is set to become the next head coach of the New York Jets, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. There are now 4 head coaching vacancies remaining, including in Dallas, New Orleans, Las Vegas, and Jacksonville. The Jags will also be searching for a new general manager after parting ways with Trent Baalke. And in Cincinnati, the Bengals are finalizing a deal with Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden to become their next defensive coordinator, according to NFL Network insiders. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this, if something were to happen to me, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' education, and the other bills? Then forget the excuses and check out Ethos Life, the online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Happy Sports Daily to you on a Thursday. Glad to be here with you, Jake Albrock and Tommy Castor. It is going to be a fun show. We've got to discuss the 2 basketball games we saw last night featuring the teams that we follow, Kansas and Kansas State. We've got to look ahead to Wichita State's biggest road contest. You could think of it as their biggest opportunity this season tonight. So we'll do all of that. We got a betting insider, PJ Glasser, in to look ahead to championship weekend. We will take a deep dive into those 2 games. And Tim Fitzgerald, KState insider, GoPowerCat.com, will be in as well a little later in the show to help us with that K-State breakdown from last night. I'm Jacob Albrock alongside Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily. Thanks for listening to us on KFH here. Thanks for listening to us on the Odyssey app, wherever it is that you might be listening to us. And thanks for watching us on our video streams on 12 News Connected, Facebook, YouTube, X, all the different places. Lots of ways to get in touch with the program. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Man, I'm feeling good today. I don't know about you. I feel like we are we're getting, later in the week, we're getting ready for the AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game, of course, college basketball last night. Looking forward to jumping right in today.
Yeah, it was a good night of college basketball. It was an entertaining night of college basketball. You had one outcome you feel good about, one really good second half and one not so good second half. KU gets the win over TCU. They win it in a fashion, I think, that we can all be excited about. And we'll take a deeper dive into that game in just a few minutes. But they get a nice win on the road at TCU, a 13-point win in a game they were trailing at halftime. If they could, sort of knock that off and, play a complete game, that's when I think you get more of the UCF type outcomes. But it was a good game, good half, a lot of good individual efforts there. K-State, boy, you thought they were going to have that one. You thought that one might be the one, Tommy, and they couldn't close it out against Baylor. I'll say this because we'll spend a lot of time with KU in our next segment. As it pertains to K-State, I think the last two performances we've seen have been far more encouraging than the others, but we're at a 15-game road losing streak for the Wildcats. We're at a 6-game losing streak overall, which is the longest in the Jerome Tang era. So, I don't know how half glass full you can really go with the Wildcats, but I do just as it pertains to this season, the last couple of games, at least in those losses, you feel a whole lot better about the energy and the effort and the execution from K-State than you did, earlier this year.
I think, unfortunately, we're at the point now with this Wildcat program where you're trying to find any kind of shred of just encouragement. I think that's the right word. You used it a moment ago. Encouragement. Is there anything that you can take away from game by game, to show that they're making progress or they're growing or things were a little bit better in that game than they were the game before? I felt like with Baylor, they looked a little bit more crisp. You mentioned
there's no doubt about it.
You mentioned energy and effort in the last couple of games, and I agree with you on that. But even deeper than that, I just felt like the ball moved a little bit more efficiently. I felt like there wasn't a whole lot, or maybe not quite as much, just like dribbling around. Like it actually felt like they were running some offense. Every now it wasn't great, right?
Yeah,
like it hasn't
still,
been.
yeah.
And this is, I guess trying to be glass half full here and trying to find something to just like cling on to. And that's about all I can come up with.
I can come up with the effort. Look, I think the effort was higher. I think the desire at least appeared to be higher. I still can't figure out what their offense is. I just would, because you're just kind of,
they really even quite know what their offense is.
I would try to take, and I always have a hard time with this because I don't want to like oversimplify how complicated it is to run a high level basketball offense. And I use this all the time. I have a hard time running an offense for fourth grade girls, like at all. So like even the most basic stuff you're trying to do, like I get it. It's hard when somebody's trying to stop you from doing it. I think the problem when we watch K-State is when you watch it, and I would take several possessions because you're kind of just watching the game, and it's like, all right, this time I'm really going to watch the offense. And every time you get the point guard, whoever it was, bring the ball up the floor, and they would park on the outside of the perimeter for a minute. You'd have 4 guys out on the outside, literally just standing there, not moving at all, like nothing, just standing there. Right. And then you'd have one player maybe slide over and set a screen. And then if that didn't work or whatever, those 4 guys, like they would drive the ball in and try and take a shot. And I'm watching all 4 guys sit out on the perimeter. I'm like, what are we doing here? That's the kind of offense I run for the fourth grade girls, right? You got to really focus on what 2 people have to do and everybody else just kind of hang tight for a minute, right? Like, what do we do? Like that's, and I know that probably doesn't happen every time, but every time I looked up, like that's the offense. And we've been saying that for 2.5 years now. The ISO ball offense, like that's a dangerous existence offensively. Like you got to create some things, and it works if they shoot well.
Why can't they play through the post? We've been talking about that
because I don't know that they have a real true like post player.
I don't think they have a real true post player. I don't think that David Gasson is.
Yeah, he's not going to
kneel down there or anything. Like I'm not suggesting that, but Coleman Hawkins.
That's not his game. That's never been his game.
I get that. But when you combine Gasson and Hawkins, like the sum of both of those parts, you could play, I think, a little bit more inside or even set up an inside out, type offense. I don't know why they don't do something like that.
I agree. Other than, maybe they just feel like they don't have it on the roster and they haven't, I guess, for 3 years now, 2.5, because we've never seen it. And, when you have players like Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson who can thrive in that, right? Both great shooters, both great drivers and attackers, that's fine. But to hope for open threes, like Baylor was just like, all right, well, we're not going to give you a good look out there in the second half. Like, we'll just take that away and we'll let you take your chances with a one-on-one matchup from the outside. We'll probably get the rebound. I don't know what the rebounding margin was last night. But KU, yeah, it was close. It was close. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact either. And we're not trying to put roses with everything. But for much of that game, I think you can just tell a difference in the last game and a half, we'll say, the second half against KU, and then pretty much this whole game against Baylor. At least now it seems like this team's bought in. After watching those, I don't know that I think K-State's going to lose all the rest of their Big 12 games. They're at least playing with some effort and some energy and seem more bought in than they did, let's say, against Houston, where it was they don't want to be there. They don't want anything to do with this game.
Well, they were severely outmatched and outclassed by Houston in that game. Right. And then, I think that's the difference between, if you contrast that game with the Sunflower Showdown last weekend, Houston and Kansas are in the same realm as far as talent is concerned. And, the Houston game was in Manhattan. I mean, the Wildcats went to Lawrence to play Kansas, and the effort was better. I mean, it wasn't like they were, outclassed and ran out of the building by the Jayhawks. They hung tight.
In a game where they easily could have been because of the way it started.
100%. And so I thought that was impressive against Kansas. I thought that last night too, again, we're not trying to sugarcoat anything. The effort was better. There's that old football coach saying, it's the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's. It is a little bit of the X's and O's. They've got the dudes. They just can't figure out how to get them to score.
Seems like it is anyway. To a couple amateur basketball minds here. We're going to come back, and KU, we'll dig deep into that win. It's a big one over TCU. It's a good one. Good to see for a lot of reasons, more than just the score. That's next on Sports Daily.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
what is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... Oh! It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. It is Jacob Albrocht and Tommy Castor, and we are with you right now on KFH. And, well, we're happy to be with you right now on KFH. Thanks to Prairie Fire Coffee for keeping us fueled up each and every morning here on KFH and all across our Odyssey studios. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Tommy KU last night. You take that, right? We love that. That's a great game against TCU. And it was tight. And they were losing at halftime, and we were a little bit, I'll tell you, like, as it's going on and we're seeing it, and it's like, boy, maybe they should be winning this game by more or maybe anything else. At the same time you're watching all that, you're watching, and we text last night, and I called it the Flory Badunga and AJ Storr game. Collectively, those two were probably the two best players on the floor for KU. No offense to Hunter Dickinson, who was solid. But boy, Badunga was a presence. He kept his foul total down, which was good. AJ Storr finding some offensive confidence, should we call it? He's an interesting one because I think his may be more of a defensive thing, but the minutes were there for him. 22 minutes in the game. He played the most minutes off the bench. We've seen that bench tighten up to 8. We know that KJ Adams will make it 9 eventually. We're kind of in that rotation, but you're seeing an allocation of minutes, I think, where Storr is becoming a bigger and bigger part of the offense. And we've all sort of waited for that to be a thing that makes this team better. And then, Flory Badunga, 10-10, 4 blocks. I mean, just get out of here with that. Oh, and speaking of the defense for AJ Storr, 3 steals, Tom. He was all over the place. That, no matter what the score was, I think KU fans everywhere were going to watch that game and say, all right, now we're talking a little bit. Now these two guys are going to have to be big factors in whatever KU does this year.
Yeah, you sort of have to cover your eyes and hold your nose when you think about the first, 10 minutes of the game or 15 minutes of the game, because they were down by a lot
They
to
need
start
to
off that
stop
game.
doing that.
They got out to a terrible start, down by, I think, 14 at one point.
Yeah.
And when you're on the road, and like they've never played well on the road at TCU like that for whatever reason, like going to Fort Worth is like a bugaboo for the KU. It always has been. And so that like they got that all figured out and things started to turn around. They were able to pull to, I think at one point they tied it in the first half and then went down by a couple at halftime. But it was the second half for the Jayhawks, and it has been to a large scale in a lot of their conference matchups. They've been a second half team. You go back to the Sunflower Showdown, they were a first half team in that game, but by and large, it's been second half play for the Jayhawks. And you're absolutely correct. It was much needed to have AJ Storr come out with his best offensive performance that we've seen him have as a Jayhawk. He's, I think, grown in confidence. And I think the other word I would use is assertiveness on both ends of the court over the last couple of games. We saw flashes of it against Kansas State, and we really saw it, I think, last night against TCU. For the Jayhawks to be the best version of themselves, AJ Storr has to be the best version of himself. He's got to be productive. They've got to be able to lean on him and rely on him. I thought Rylan Griffin looked a little bit better. His stat line doesn't really show it. He missed some shots, but they were good looks. So I feel like if he can come along too, then at that point, that's gravy. But having AJ Storr do what he did, and of course, having Flory Badunga be productive, I was concerned with KJ Adams out for a couple of games, what the production would look like, what the energy level would look like for the Jayhawks. And they've exceeded my expectations with Adams on the bench.
It's kind of do or die. And I think sometimes that is the best thing that can happen to players. Like, all right, now you have to. Like, we've been waiting. It's been slow. It's probably not going the way you want. Now we don't have a choice. KJ Adams is out. Like, you got to get out there and do it. And I think clearly that's been good for Storr. But doing good, it's just he's getting more experience and oozing with upside, and we all just hope the NBA doesn't try and poach him away and he spends a little more time in Lawrence because he's so
I think he's raw enough that I think that he'll probably be there for another year, I would think.
In the NIL era, maybe. In past eras, no shot. But we'll see. We'll see what he does because he is oozing with skill. So here's the question for me then, because KJ Adams will probably miss one or two more games. And that's fine because you want these two to continue this path, right? Like, and you know what? You're going to have to take some licks this weekend, and that's okay. Like, no matter what happens in the game, those two need to continue to build their momentum. And, hopefully it's good enough against Houston. Maybe it's not, but I think if you're okay with that, like I'm okay with that. If it's not enough this time, while they take this piece of what needs to happen for them to ultimately reach their highest potential, which is for both of these guys to be key contributors. If it takes a loss at Houston because you don't have KJ Adams and you don't have your ultimate final rotation, so be it, right? I think there's a chance that you could still be the best version of yourself in the end because these two players are getting the experience they need. So what does it look like, though, when KJ Adams comes back? I think that's the question on people's mind is how does this look? And Shaq Moore, by the way, 3 of 4 from 3, didn't see that coming. Nice game from him. I think it probably looks like whatever the starting lineup combination is, it won't really matter a great deal. Like probably Shaq Moore would be the guy that loses out on his starting role, I would guess.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure I'm on board with that.
Saying he should. What I don't understand is like, is there ever a rotation where Adams, Badunga, and Dickinson are out there together? That seems less likely to me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Likely. But what it does mean is, okay, one of them starts on the bench. Doesn't really matter which one, because at the end of the game, you see those three guys sort of rotate through two spots. We couldn't necessarily do that before, Tommy, because you kind of needed KJ to play that 3 spot. Well, that's where AJ Storr, I think, steps in. So now let's imagine KJ Adams as sort of, at least defensively as much as anything else, being a guy that's going to help you down low. Okay, now we're cooking a little bit. Now that gets Hunter Dickinson needed rest in every game. Now it gives you the ability to work through some, potential foul issues with Badunga. He didn't do that last night, which was great to see, but it's going to happen. He's a freshman. So I think that's where you get, let those three sort of rotate the minutes among themselves for 2 spots, and then Storr steps in almost to the other side with Mayo and Harris, and you can just separate them that way. Whereas before, you kind of needed KJ Adams to run around everywhere until these guys developed.
I know how you feel about the starting lineup and how, you said it doesn't matter. Starting lineup ultimately doesn't matter. It comes down to who plays the most minutes in the game and all of that. I do disagree in this regard because of the way that KU has started out games, notwithstanding the Kansas State game at home over the weekend. They have gotten off to poor starts in a handful of their Big 12 games. So I do think it matters who starts in the starting rotation for the Jayhawks. And for me, in my opinion, I think the best rotation to start out a game has both Dickinson and Badunga in the starting lineup. I think that's where they're able to create so much offense because they're either able to flow through the post or then be able to kick it out to somebody like Mayo or even Shaq Moore in that regard. So if it were me, honestly, I think I would maybe look at KJ Adams coming off the bench to at least start the game. I think he can provide you with a significant amount of energy, a significant spark, maybe around the under 16 timeout or under 12 timeout, to give one of those guys a breather. And then you have no drop off in intensity or energy because Adams is fresh and ready to go. Hopefully the Jayhawks are then able to start off a game in a little bit of a better form and fashion, because I think that offensively you're that much more dynamic when you've got Dickinson and Badunga starting out the game. If it were me, I think the starting 5 should be Dickinson and Badunga down low. And then I would look at Harris, Mayo, and Storr to start the game, at least right now.
That's so Shaq Moore comes out, which is, so we do agree on that. I really appreciate what Shaq Moore's done, but I agree with you. Shaq Moore would be the one that comes out of the current starting lineup. And I would do the same thing. Now we can tweak it. And the thing is, they haven't got off to good starts plenty of times to where it's not like anybody should tether themselves to this starting lineup in any way, form, or fashion. So it doesn't really matter. What I would like to see is the defensive intensity that they seem to find at every second half, they find in the first half too.
But that does come back to Shaq Moore. So I think that is another argument to maybe have him start. And I know that for me, the way that AJ Storr has played the last couple of games, he's maybe played his way into the starting lineup. But man, Moore is a tone setter defensively.
Yeah.
And, not only was he able to shoot the ball well last night in the limited number of shots he took, but man, he was jumping passing lanes in the second half. He was getting after it defensively. And when he does that, that tends to rub off on the other guys on the court. And that's when their defensive effort as a whole just, goes up significantly.
So then let's talk about the elephant in the room then. How is Dajuan Harris the player that's getting too many minutes?
No.
He was not good last night. He turned the ball over 5 times, and he's one of my favorite all-time players. Let me just say that right now. I love Dajuan Harris. He is outstanding, and I think he's an incredible player. He turned the ball over 5 times last night.
Yeah,
he's had a lot of games this year where he's had 3, at least 3. It's going to be a challenge anytime he and Mayo combine for 9 turnovers in a game. So my question then becomes, is it more of a shared role between he and Moore that needs to happen instead of both of them being out there? Dajuan Harris always plays the most minutes, always. Does that need to go down in any way? He was not good offensively last night. He turned the ball over a ton last night. Moore had a better game. So and again, that's a dangerous proposition.
Yeah,
we know
I don't
the
think
straw
so.
that stirs the drink. But if you're going to get more in there when KJ Adams comes back, I'm not sure how you do it all unless some of the minutes available come from Dajuan Harris.
You want to know why Dajuan Harris gets a lot of criticism, and I feel like he's getting a lot more this year than in years past. It's not because he turned the ball over last night. It's not because of any of that. It's because he's not a shooter. He's not a good shooter, and he never really has been a great shooter in his career at KU. People look at him and they think about guys like Frank Mason and Devon Dotson and Devontae Graham, and they want him to fit that kind of profile. He's typically a really, really good distributor of the basketball.
He did 7 assists last night.
Right. But I mean, he did turn the ball over and, you know, so the ball handling wasn't great, but he's usually a really, really good distributor. He's kind of that court general type guy where he's directing the offense. I think you lose that, or at least it's a downgrade if you take him off the court. I feel like the way that the offense flows and all of that, of course, it all starts with Harris and him bringing the ball up the court. He's got to take care of the ball better. I think everybody knows that. But I think people look at the profile of some of these other guards that Bill Self has had over the last decade or so, and they think about those guys and their ability to get downhill, to score at the rim, to just, you know, maybe not even necessarily distribute it, but like Frank Mason was the best at this. Like, I'm just going to keep the ball myself and drive to the hoop, draw contact late in the game, and go to the foul line. That is not DeJuan Harris's game, and it never has been. And I think that's people look at him and like, man, he doesn't fit the profile of the way that Bill Self guards usually play. And I think that's a big reason why he gets a lot of the criticism. I don't think that any of that warrants fewer minutes for him.
I'm not trying to criticize. Again, I think he is incredible. You know, and it's not the shooting. I wish he would drive more and attack that way. I don't wish he would shoot more. He's not that good of a shooter.
That's not really his.
Well,
game.
But the argument has always been, should it be? And I'll leave that up to Bill Self. It's not so much that for me, it doesn't have as much to do with DeJuan Harris or anything he does. It has more to do with, if you think Shaq Moore must be on the floor, then that's where you get that rotation now. Because somebody has to play fewer minutes when KJ Adams comes back than what we saw last night. But we all like the expanded roles for Badunga and Storr. At least I think we all do. So where do those minutes come from then? I mean, Dickinson will be fine to lose some minutes defensively so that he can be fresh. That one's clear. I don't think that hurts the team at all. I think it might help him. I think it might help Dickinson, honestly. I don't think you can pull Zeke Mayo off the floor much right now because he's your best scorer, and that's a dangerous proposition.
It's AJ Storr for now, because I think that while he has improved over the last couple of games, I don't think that all of a sudden that warrants 30-plus minutes on the court for him.
Well, no, but he got 22 last night. That feels about right. But if KJ Adams is back, then where do his minutes come from? If you want Storr to play 20 minutes.
22 minutes for Storr seems right when KJ Adams isn't there. I think 15 minutes probably seem a whole lot better when KJ Adams comes back.
I agree, but that's not enough. Like, the math isn't mathing right.
Sure.
So where do they come from? So are you taking, how many are you taking? So let's just, are you taking 10 a game from Hunter Dickinson? Are you taking 5 from Badunga and 5 from AJ Storr? Maybe that gets you to around that 20 number. And maybe that's what it is. It's just
a lot of it. I mean, it comes down to the gameplay. It comes down to the flow of the game and foul trouble. And it comes down, there are so many, you can't pinpoint number of minutes for each guy. And that's the way it should be.
Okay. So
you can't be that regimented.
We agree. And obviously you can't, but that brings me back to the question about Harris. What about in a game where Harris is not having his best game? Like, is that a spot where you think about, because this never happens, taking him off the floor for any period of time? You're having a bad game, dude. Catch a few minutes. We'll let Shaq Moore run things for a minute. That's where I wonder.
Sure. I mean, look,
but that's never happened before.
DeJuan Harris isn't playing 40 minutes. I mean, he's playing 36, right? 35. He's playing most of the game, the vast majority of the game, usually. But it's not like he's like, he'll take breathers, and that's okay, right? Like, that's all
it has to be okay. It has to be okay, because I think that helps this team. But there aren't very many games where he plays fewer than 35 minutes. There are some, but not very many. And we'll see. Anyway, these are all good problems right now for Bill Self to have. Much better. They're not problems. We used to have these conversations about Greg Marshall when he would have deep teams all the time. We talk about doesn't matter, right? It's a good problem to have. Bad problem to have is, crap, I can't find anybody to go score for me right now. Like, that's a problem.
By the way, did you catch the double technical last night? Did you catch the Hunter Dickinson?
I loved that one. I know I've given him heat for making bad decisions. I had no issue with that one. I loved that one.
Didn't like it. Bill Self called it.
What did he say?
He called it boneheaded and asinine from Hunter Dickinson. Like, that he should know better and not do it. And I'm like, I mean, he's obviously holding on to the ball.
You thought I'd tee off on that, didn't you?
You know, but there were 3 or 4 TCU guys that were all
I know.
over.
So that's interesting. And yeah, probably if I was Bill Self, because I have been hard on Dickinson for doing that kind of stuff. That one, there wasn't like an obvious, like cheap shot. So I'm less bothered by it. And that's also one of those things where like coach may say something, but then like pretend he's not listening.
Yeah.
But want some attaboys from his teammates. Like, yeah, you don't take that crap from them. Like, there we go. Now that, so I actually, for somebody who's been pretty hard on some of his boneheaded decisions, I didn't have an issue with that one. I thought that was a good spot for something like that from Dickinson. That one seems better.
It seemed like the equivalent of a coach deliberately getting a technical to fire his team up. Like that was kind of the way that I felt like that was playing out.
Agree. Yes, that's exactly how I felt about it. Now, did it go on too long and get stressed? Yeah, probably.
And then you have both teams kind of coming in. I don't know. I do feel like
the idea of it was a good one and a good spot for it, I think.
I don't know if there is a bigger villain as far as a current player in college basketball right now than Hunter Dickinson.
No, he's not. And he's got to be careful with that because that also makes him a target for officials.
Yeah. It's like him on the playing side, Dan Hurley on the coach's side.
God, Dan Hurley. Woo. He's what a great heel. All right. We'll come back. More Sports Daily. We'll preview the Shockers next.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We
investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Back in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Going to be a little cold this weekend. It's that time of year, right? Well, Tommy and I are going to take advantage this weekend. We're going to head up to Crestview Country Club, and we're going to hit the simulator. We're going to have some beers. We're going to have some, I don't know, wings, maybe a soup, Tommy. It is cold outside. And
you had me until soup. I was all in and on board.
I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't found better clam chowder. I will tell you that. So maybe just a little bowl of soup, maybe some wings. We'll see. But more importantly, some beers and swinging some golf clubs. And it's been a minute since I've swung the golf clubs. So we're going to hit that simulator. Who knows what course we'll pick? You can pick any of them, right? I think that's how that works. So we'll do that. It's a great feature of Crestview Country Club. Even when it's cold outside, still plenty to do. Give them a call. They're great supporters of the program. Tommy and I, our families, all love it out there. Give them a call. Tell them we sent you. Ask them about the different types of memberships. It's not all the big ones with golf. There are smaller ones to, just to get the social aspect of it, which is fun. We appreciate their support. Thanks, everybody, for watching us. Thanks for commenting always on our video stream. Rick, one of our great commenters to our last conversation, says there's no way Dickinson, Adams, and Flory all start. I agree, Rick. I just wonder if there's ever a world where all three of them are on the floor at the same time. What would that look like? If you needed just like, all right, we're protecting a lead now. Can we go with those three guys just to make it seemingly impossible for the opposition to score? I don't know that it works, but I'm intrigued by it when it's out there. Could you imagine that? Like Dickinson, Adams, Flory, Storr, let's say, and either Shaq Moore or DeJuan Harris. DeJuan Harris is a great defender too. Like that's pretty gnarly. Or even Moore and Harris, and then those three, right? Like woo. That'd be not fun to play offense against that, but who knows? We'll see. Good problems for KU, who wins last night and gets the most meaningful contributions from two of the guys we all know really need to step up if KU is going to reach their potential in AJ Storr and Flory Badunga. Let's talk shockers for a minute here, Tommy. Disappointing loss. We haven't talked a lot about the loss against East Carolina. It's tough. It's unfortunate that we haven't talked a lot about the loss to East Carolina. I think that's the most troubling thing about the loss to East Carolina is that it's sort of getting buried in the news a little bit of conference championship weekend and a national championship for college football and all the different things that are happening. That's the danger, the true danger of losing games in the American that you probably don't need to be losing. But there's a headline grabber. There is a program invigorator. There is a momentum changing game in store tonight, potentially for Wichita State, who goes on the road to play a ranked Memphis team. Memphis is sort of stuck in the craw of the Shockers for a while under Penny Hardaway. They're a pretty typical Memphis team, I think, oozing with talent that loses games they shouldn't lose. And the question becomes, can the Shockers go on the road and get it done? I will say, I don't think, I think this is I don't think it's like there's a huge gap between this team, Wichita State, on the road and at home. So that gives you some hope. Can they go to Memphis as 12 or 13 point underdogs and win that game? Yeah, I think they could. Will they? I think it's unlikely, but I think they can. And that would be, this is the biggest opportunity for them to create a little buzz that they'll have probably all year long.
Well, I can tell you, if I'm Penny Hardaway, what I'm going to do tonight, big time with my Tigers team, is just shoot from the perimeter as much as I possibly can. And we know we've talked about it at length about the Shockers' struggle in defending the three. Memphis actually, they're an okay 3-point shooting team. They don't take a lot of 3-pointers. Like, they're not towards the top of NCAA basketball as far as the number of shots, number of 3-point shots that they take compared to other teams around the country. But the ones that they do take, they usually get pretty good looks, and they usually make those. Their percentage is pretty solid. So if I'm Penny Hardaway, I'm saying fire away, boys. Like, this is an area where Wichita State absolutely struggles, is getting out and defending the three. And so we're going to, try to exploit what probably one of their biggest weaknesses is. If you're Wichita State, you 1000% have to close out there defensively. But then on the road in an environment like Memphis, a team that, you've struggled against for so many years and all of that, you just have to take care of the basketball. You can't give them extra possessions. You can't give them opportunities and just hand them, those opportunities. You've got to make sure that you are protecting the basketball and not turning it over.
Yeah. They're going to have to score. They're going to have to score. They're going to have to shoot well. I don't think there's a world where Wichita State doesn't have one of its better shooting nights of the year and gets this done. And we'll see. I mean, they're going to have to play good defense too. And like, it's unnerving a bit to think about, some of the games that they've played where they've, that stretch where they allowed 90 points a game for a while. And it's like, oh gosh, like, what is that going to mean for Memphis? Like that's what concerns me, I think, more than anything. But, they even in the loss to East Carolina, collectively, they've been much better defensively the last two games. So maybe they've put that part of it behind them. I do think they're going to have, I'll call it their best offensive game of the year if they want a shot to win this game tonight.
It'll be easier said than done. Memphis has the best defense in the American. And so you've got to.
Totally. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying I think that's what it might take. Like, you're going to have to hit a bunch of shots, and that's not the Shockers. Like, that's not what they do, but that may be what they have to do tonight.
It's kind of a lightning in a bottle, I think, type outcome that you're going to have from Wichita State. Let's just be real about it. They're going to have to not only have their best effort of the season, but they're probably going to have to catch Memphis on an off night, on an off shooting night, on a night where maybe they're not as, crisp and efficient, and, maybe they're turning the ball over. It's going to take, I think, probably some things that are out of your control. And sure, you can, try to do everything that you can to get them out of their game. But some of it's going to, I think, probably have to be self-inflicted by Memphis if Wichita State wants to have at least a decent shot to upset them.
I don't know. I'm excited. I will say this. I am very excited to watch the game tonight. I'm very excited to see it. I'm nervous, though, about what could happen. And I hope Wichita State makes a great game of it and turns their season around. I mean, it's like rinse, wash, repeat with the Shockers after a loss like East Carolina. It's like, man, this team's good enough. This team's good enough to be near the top of this league. His team should be near the top of this league, and they're not. And I don't know what else to say about that other than they're playing like we're not seeing, like, there's not an effort issue with Wichita State or anything like that. I don't think, not from anything I'm seeing. They just they got to play better. But
I
it's
didn't
not
even
like they've given up or anything, which happens to teams.
I didn't even realize this until I read the headline in the Eagle that the Shockers haven't beat a ranked opponent on the road since 2018. It's been a long time. We're talking
I believe
7
that.
years since they've won a game on the road against a ranked opponent. It's been a long time. I didn't realize it's been that long.
There's a lot there for Wichita State tonight. Like there is, like if you're gonna find it, if you're gonna get that swag and like go with, like this is the spot. It's the only spot you're gonna have the rest of the way to do this. And you get to the conference tournament, and that's not the same as going to Memphis. Remember, Wichita State beat Memphis, right? Like I believe last year in the conference tournament.
And almost beat them at Memphis in the regular season, like that,
and
that's
fell just short, right?
Like that's, I think, maybe one thing that you gotta, hang your hat on a little bit is that I think we would all say that from a talent perspective, this Wichita State team is better than last year's team.
And I would say Memphis is not as good as last
Memphis
year's
is not as good as last year's team. Wichita State beat them in the tournament, and then almost beat them at their place in the regular season last year. So there are some things that I think you can maybe point to, like, all right, this isn't an impossible quest that we're after tonight. You've just got to be able to make sure that you're putting everything together. And what we've seen in flashes from this team, we just have to see it consistently.
Right. There's not. I'm just making sure there's not going to be a bigger opportunity for the Shockers to make a statement this year than this game tonight. It's on national television. It's in a decent it's an early tip, so that you don't love that, but that's okay. You've got the opportunity to exercise all of those demons you just talked about. You've got the opportunity to set a tone for your team the rest of the way, because now if you go to Memphis and beat Memphis, you don't look at any game the rest of your schedule, if you're that coaching staff, and be like, guys, like look what we can do. Look what we're capable of. Do the things we're supposed to do. And there may not be a conference game the rest of the way that we should lose. And you can build on that. Got to get it done, though. And it's going to be tough. Look,
it is.
Nobody's pretending like we think Wichita State's going to go to Memphis and get a win as a 12-point underdog. But I think they can. And as long as we think they can, that's
I don't know about you. I'm teetering on the edge of that.
I am too.
But look, like worst case scenario for the Shockers is not only losing, but losing poorly, like losing badly. Getting run out of the arena. At that point, that things are start to snowball even larger. Like if you can, let's say it's a repeat of what we saw last year in Memphis when it took a buzzer beater from Memphis to beat the Shockers. Like it's disappointing. It's you're not getting a win, and we know how everybody feels about moral victories, but like it could have went a much worse direction, right? So I think that you've got to make sure that you're just avoiding that, especially on national TV, playing a ranked opponent, all of that. Just you can't get run out of their arena.
No, and it goes back to, so Scott Drew came in last night. I don't know if you saw this, to the KState locker room and talked to him about a season with Jerome Tang, and I think Paul Mills was probably still there. They started 2-8 in their league, finished 9-9, made a run to the Sweet 16. That kind of thing is not so much in the cards for the Shocker, but it does speak to, like, this is college basketball, and if you can find something like that, you can. And like, for again, I'm not even exaggerating. If Wichita State could prove to themselves that they can go on the road and beat Memphis, they could legitimately look at the rest of their schedule and say, fellas, there's not a game on this schedule that we should lose the rest of the way, and have that actual belief. And like, that's what's out there for the Shockers. And even if it's not, to your point you just made, even if it's not a win, but a really, really impressive performance, you could almost look at it the same way. Like, all right, if that's the top of the mountain, we were right there. We have got to stop having the letdowns that are costing us games we absolutely should not be losing. If we look at Wichita State's schedule right now and their starting conference play 1-4, Tommy, I'll give you Temple. There's not another of the three losses that they should have lost. They have no business losing any of those games.
Yeah.
That's what has to stop. Stop losing games you have no business losing.
Yeah.
Especially at home.
And the stretch obviously doesn't get any easier for Wichita State. I mean, this is the biggest test for sure on the road at Memphis, but you've got Tulsa coming up, you've got North Texas. They're a team that could win the American.
Sure.
Like they're a good team. They're a good basketball team in the conference, and so you've got them. It's a tough stretch coming up for Wichita State, and the only home game in the next 4 or 5 games is that North Texas game. Everything else is on the road coming up. And so it's a difficult stretch for Wichita State. You've got to try to find a way to make up for those losses that you just mentioned, that they should have never lost those games.
5 o'clock pregame coverage begins over on KEYN tonight. Get ready for it, Shocker fans. Coming up in the next hour, PJ Glasser, talk championship weekend, Tim Fitzgerald, talk a little K-State. Don't go away.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrecht and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily here on KFH. If you want a chance to win some HTO, you can do that right to kick off hour number 2. All you got to do is text the keyword T to the short code 20357 right now for your chance at a free iced tea featuring the all-new root beer flavor and featuring some free iced or hot coffee. You can enter once per day. Message and data rates apply. Again, the keyword is T, and you can text it to 20357. Welcome back in, everybody. Jacob Albrecht, Tommy Castor here with you for another hour. Coming up in this hour, our betting insider, PJ Glasser, helps us look ahead to a big conference championship weekend. We'll be able to, with only a couple of games, be able to dig really deep into some of the fun and crazy bets of these games. Tommy's got a fun long shot one he can run by PJ that he showed me last night. It's interesting. We can also talk to Tim Fitzgerald about who knows what. We got a lot to talk about Tim Fitzgerald. I want to talk about Tim. We can talk about KState. Of course, he's our KState insider, but also year one of the CFP, takeaways, the fallout, what could change, all those kinds of things too. So a big hour of the show coming up here. Can't wait to do it with you. All right, Tommy, let's get to some Chiefs specifically here in this segment before we get into the betting aspect with PJ Glasser. I don't think, we're not, the language is clear. Everyone's breakdowns are kind of the same. Like nobody knows what to expect here in this game. I think everybody expects that it will be a great game. I think there are 1,000 different ways both teams can attack here. I think this will be, we haven't talked about this, like coaching and strategy and all of that are going to have, I think, a really big impact on this game. Even maybe not as much as the two quarterbacks. I think that'd be crazy to say, but the way both teams attack it will be fascinating to watch. How each team decides to go after the other team.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that there's going to be a whole lot of major in-game adjustments in like chess match between the two coaches. I think it's going to be more of what the game plan going into the game is and who's got a better one, right? I think that's honestly what I see, because there are a number of different ways that, like each team can attack the other one. And it just depends on who's got the better game plan and who can execute it better. There might be, obviously, I think there are going to be some tweaks in game, but I think that's going to be, less impactful than just what the incoming game plan is.
I agree with that. They're going to make quarterbacks are going to make the end game
for sure.
Like they're going to be the ones that change things up. But I am very curious to see and know and be a fly on the wall to in those offensive meetings for the Chiefs. Like what's the plan here? What is the plan going to be against Buffalo? I think it's going to be similar to what we saw at the end of the year. like Texans, Steelers, quick strike. I think this is an Xavier Worthy game. I've always thought this had the potential, even before, assuming it was the Bills, because I thought it would be the Bills, where Worthy has a chance to be a big impact player in this game. I think the way the Bills handle Travis Kelce is like right out of the gates the most interesting thing. They can adjust that within a game, though. But like, are they going to take the approach the Texans took? Are they going to take the approach everybody else took for most of the season? And I don't even know what I think the right answer to that is, quite frankly, Tommy. Like, if I was a Bills fan, I don't know which of those things I would prefer. I really don't. That will be the first thing I think we watch for. I don't think the Chiefs are going to come out and run it 30 times. I don't think that's going to be what they do. So how do they attack that? And then on the other side, on the defensive side, we saw how effective the aggressive defense was late against the Texans. Do you take a chance and start the game that way? But if you do that and Josh Allen picks you apart a little bit, are the Chiefs capable of playing from behind against a team like the Bills? I don't know that I think they are. I mean, that hasn't been what they do all year.
One of the best things that Steve Spagnuolo does is when he smells blood in the water, that's when he like just throws the house at you, and everybody comes flying at you. That's what they did with the Texans and CJ Stroud and all of that. What I don't think Steve Spagnuolo usually does, and I guess I haven't gone through and looked game by game, but I'm not sure he usually starts that way, right? Like, I'm not sure it's like, let's just like absolutely throw the house at the opponents, like from the moment that the ball is kicked off. It's almost like, let's settle in and let's see what, we're getting from these guys. And then when we can, actually make things happen, that's when we'll, go after it.
How risky too, do you think, not just in that perspective, but like we're going to see in the other game, probably no aversion to going forward on fourth down, like kind of like we saw with the Commanders and Lions, right? I think the Eagles are also aggressive there. How aggressive do you think the decision-making will be for the head coaches in this game also? Because to me, this does feel a little different than in some of the other Chiefs-Bills meetings where it's like, all right, like we got to score at every chance, 4th and 3, punt does nothing for us. I don't think that's the case for these teams this year. Like, I think, field position and ball control do matter to both of these teams. And the way that they are kind of designed this year makes me wonder how aggressive the coaches will be with some in-game decision-making. The Texans were very aggressive with in-game decision-making, and it bit them hard against the Chiefs, going for long field goals, like those kinds of things really bit them in the butt. Do you think these teams want to control it, or do you think they want to limit the potential for turnaround moments like that when they maybe don't convert or don't land a 56-yard field goal in the elements, those kinds of things?
I think you got to pick your spot. I don't think that it can be something where, aggressively, at least if we're talking about the way that Andy Reid wants to call this game offensively for the Chiefs. Like, I don't think that you're going to be well served by being uber aggressive offensively from the get-go. I think you have to pick your spots because, this team, you've got some deep threats, but we also know the limitations that the Chiefs have offensively as far as like giving Patrick Mahomes a good amount of time in the pocket to be able to find that deep shot, whether that's Xavier Worthy or Hollywood Brown or otherwise. So if you can find ways to loosen things up a little bit and give Mahomes more time in the pocket to allow those downfield deep shots to materialize, then sure. I think you pick your spots and you find opportunities to make that happen. I'm not sure that you want to be uber aggressive with your offensive play calling from the start. I think it's different for the Bills. I think the Bills from the beginning, I think you want to try to find ways from the beginning to get Josh Allen some deep shots and to, find ways to have the big chunk plays happen. And I think that's where guys like Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson have to be ready to go from the moment that the ball is kicked off.
I'm talking even more in-game decisions too. Like, I'll give you a scenario. Opening drive, Chiefs take the opening kickoff. No score, right? You've got it 4th and 2 at the 50-yard line. Kansas City with the ball. What do you do if you're Andy Reid?
I think you probably go for it. I mean, I think as far as like those aggressive, play call decisions like that,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay.
But are you willing to miss and give Josh Allen the opportunity at a short field and put your team behind early. That's where I think I'll be curious to see it, because you know what obviously Mahomes and the players will want to do. My gut says they would go for it. But if you miss it, I think what would create the problem for the Chiefs in this game is if they get behind at any point by a couple of scores. That's where the Bills have you sort of in their wheelhouse now. They can run the ball. They can run it with Cook or Josh Allen. They can go into basically the game plan they took against the Ravens, which was, you ain't going to get the ball much. Like, we're going to take the air out of the balloon here, and we're just going to ride this lead. The Bills are totally capable of that, as much as they're capable of putting up 30 if they need to. The Chiefs are more inclined to be on the right side of that on their end, right? Kind of get an early lead and be able to control the tempo of the game. I don't know that I think the Chiefs are ready to all of a sudden do something we haven't seen them really do all year, and that's get into a track meet. We know historically they're capable of that. That has not been what they've done this year, ever.
That's not the way they want the game script to go.
Well, so that's what I mean. Are you then more conservative in your decision-making early to ensure that you don't allow yourself to get down that way? That's what I'm talking about. And I don't know I don't know what I think on that yet.
Maybe, but I mean, I think Buffalo's offense is potent enough that whether you're giving the Bills a short field or a long field, the Bills are gonna find ways to get points on the board. So I'm not sure.
But I don't want to take too much away from the Chiefs defense, though.
No. But what I'm saying is, watch what the Bills have done all season long. Like, they can put points up in droves, and they did that against the Chiefs last time. So it's not taking anything away from the Chiefs defense. They've been really good. It's more of a tip of the hat to what Buffalo can do offensively. And I'll be the first to admit, I was caught off guard probably midway through the season that the Bills offense was so potent, because I didn't think that they would be going into this season. I thought they'd even take a step back. That's a credit to Josh Allen for sure, because he's been able to take, some of these newcomers, especially in the pass catching role, and they've been able to deliver. And so it's respect fully to them, but I don't think it matters if, going back to that scenario that you posed, opening drive, 4th and 2, midfield, do you go for it? I think even if you don't and you punt it away, the Bills can still push the ball down the field. So I'm not sure it even necessarily matters all that much.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs defense is a little better than that, but we'll get into it. PJ Glasser, see what he thinks of the tone of this game, because it's a big total. 47.5 is as big as the Chiefs have had all year. We'll talk about that next. Don't go away. More Sports Daily right after this.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, You're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new local news live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
And now, digging deeper with the teams you follow, it's another Sports Daily Insider interview on KFH.
On the line now, the host of Send It In and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser Insider Calls, presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Also, be sure to listen to the Send It In podcast for more analysis. Just search Send It In wherever you find your podcast. We do welcome in PJ Glasser, our betting insider. We have 2 games, PJ, which means we can really dig into 2 games and take a good, deep look at these. We'll start in the NFC. It's up first, Commanders, Eagles. This is a fascinating one. These 2 teams know each other well. They've played twice. 6-point favorite. Right now, the Eagles are with a 47.5 over under. How are we attacking this one? Welcome in.
Yeah, good to be with you guys. This is an interesting game. For me, I think there are 2 major concerns I have for Washington. The first one being that, Jaden's facing a team that's seen him 2 times already this season, right? When they went up against Detroit, that was the first time the Lions saw him this year. When they played Tampa in the wild card round, Washington played them all the way back in week 1, but Jaden Daniels week 1 compared to what we see now is night and day, right? How he's progressed throughout the season. So this Eagles team faced him in week 16 pretty recently. They've gotten 2 looks at him. So I think that's advantage for Philly. Obviously Jaden's got some tape on how the Eagles played him as well, but going up against one of the better defenses, one of the better coordinators in the NFL and Vic Fangio, I think that's a big deal for Philly. And then also, guys, look, I think the weather could have an impact on this game, right? I mean, even though it does get cold in the DC area, Jaden Daniels really hasn't had to play a game in cold weather, especially of this magnitude, right? He hasn't had to deal with any of that. They played in a dome at Ford Field against the Lions. They played in Tampa Bay, where obviously the weather's really nice. Now you're going up against the Eagles, where it doesn't look like it's supposed to snow or we're supposed to have any rain, but it is going to be in the 30s, so it is going to be chillier. This is a guy who played his college ball at Arizona State, LSU. So anytime you're dealing with the quarterback that's not used to this kind of thing, especially in the NFC Championship game, I think that's worth noting as well. So just off the bat, initial thoughts on the game are the familiarity that the Eagles have. Jaden's got to deal with some cold weather as well. And then, for the Eagles side, obviously Jalen Hurts, what's his injury status? I think that's a big factor in this game as well. I lean Eagles -6, just because, you think about how the fact Detroit was like a 9.5-point favorite against Washington, and you certainly have to upgrade the Commanders for that win. Lions also had 5 turnovers in the game. Philly hasn't had any turnovers yet this postseason. So it feels like the line should be over 7, but because of the recency bias of Washington, how good Jaden Daniels has looked, it feels like we're kind of overvaluing them a little bit. So I lean towards Philly here, -6.
Is this a spot, PJ, that you feel like hammering Saquon, is the way to go offensively for the Eagles, knowing the injuries that Jalen Hurts has had and, even kind of a little bit of a lack of effectiveness even when he's been healthier? Is this a spot where you feel like Philly's really going to lean on Saquon?
I mean, that's certainly what the odds makers are telling you, right? Guys, his rushing yards are 130.5. I've never seen that before. 130.5. What's crazy, though, about these two matchups when they've played each other, and we've kind of seen this in the playoffs too, is Saquon, his rushing numbers are kind of skewed in the sense that, for much of the game, you can bottle him up. It's just every game he's good for a 60, 70-yard run, right? And that's what scares you about the rushing yards. So, guys, honestly, the way I would play Saquon is his longest rush is only 21.5. I think that's a good bet, just taking the over. Or if you are going to bet Saquon rushing yards, go crazy. Go 150 plus, 175 plus, maybe even 200 plus. That rushing number is so high at 130.5. At that point, I would just bet him 150, 175, 200 because, again, his 2 games against Washington, they've done a pretty good job for the most part against him. It's just in each game, he's had runs for 60, 70 yards where he breaks it for a touchdown. So, with the injury of Hurts, the Eagles are going to feature Saquon a lot. He's probably going to get 25, 30 carries in this game. So it's hard to go under on anything with his rushing numbers, but it's, 130.5 is crazy. So I think if you're going to take the over, guys, you might as well just take some alternates.
So the one of the others on the other side that feels like it just, if Washington's going to do anything, it has to be so. Terry McLaurin, 64.5. Terry McLaurin's been so reliable for Jaden Daniels. I know the Philly corners are really good, but that seems low-ish for a guy who's been as big a part of the offense in a big spot like this with a rookie quarterback who you think will lean into what's, been so successful for them this year. I think that one's interesting. And I think Jaden Daniels rushing total around 55 is interesting. You kind of you ride the horse that got you there. Those should be attackable numbers, maybe.
So the Terry one is interesting, Jacob, and I think the reason it's maybe low in the eyes of a lot of people is because when these two teams played in Philly on that Thursday night game, Terry only had 1 catch for 10 yards, and Quinyon Mitchell was the primary defender in that game. Eagles got some good news yesterday on the injury report that it looks like he's gonna be good to go. So Mitchell's gonna be out there. That was the guy that Terry struggled with when they matched up in Philly. So even though he's obviously had a great postseason, I think that's the reason the number is what it is. And honestly, why I'm staying away, because we know the Eagles do have really good secondary and really good corners. And McLaurin did struggle against Mitchell, and everybody's really struggled against Mitchell this season. So I'm kind of staying away from Terry at 64.5. Jaden Daniels' rushing yards is interesting. The way he's kind of been this postseason is you've almost wanted to bet his attempts and stayed away from the yards because the volume is there, but he really hasn't been able to break that many big runs. And I kind of feel like this is going to be that same game. Anytime you get a team who has a rushing quarterback of their own and they get to see that every day in practice, I always think that's a little bit of an advantage for a team. Detroit is notorious for struggling against running quarterbacks, which makes sense because they have Goff, right? So I think the matchup for Philadelphia is a pretty good one. And again, rushing yards at 54.5. I think if you're going to bet anything with Jaden, it will be the attempts, but it's at 10.5. So, the sports books kind of have the idea that all of us do that. Again, it's the NFC title game. Like, there's no tomorrow. You're 60 minutes from a Super Bowl. He's a great runner. Like, run him if you have to. So, if anything with McLaurin, I'd actually look under at 64.5. With Jaden Daniels, I'd probably just stay away. It feels like those numbers are pretty sharp.
I'll tell you one guy that I actually really like on the Commanders side is Zach Ertz. I mean, he's playing his former team with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and he can be, sort of that security blanket, for Jaden Daniels in this game, at least in passing the ball. Do you feel like this is a game where he can maybe shine, whether we're talking about targets or receptions or even an anytime touchdown?
Absolutely. My favorite anytime touchdown score bet, Tommy, in this game is Zach Ertz plus 275. I think that's great value. Because that's been Daniel's guy in the red zone. I think for Austin Eckler to be priced the same as Zach Ertz for an anytime touchdown really doesn't make much sense to me, right? Or Eckler's kind of a third down back. He's a receiver. He'll be in there for certain snaps, but as we know, Ertz is going to be out there for a majority of the game, especially when they're in the red zone. So like you said it, I mean, revenge angle going against your former team. You could certainly see him getting a touchdown. And, when Washington's in the red zone, they're going to focus on Jaden's legs, Brian Robinson, McLaurin, and that'll open up some opportunities for Zach Ertz to make a catch. So, yeah, when it comes to Zach Ertz, I already bet him plus 275. Favorite bet in this game for an anytime touchdown score.
So, Jalen Hurts, let's talk about the quarterbacks for a second. Jalen Hurts hasn't cleared his total, which is at 181. He's done it like one time in the last 7 games. Washington doesn't have the best defense in the world, but the way he's played and he's banged up, I mean, what world is Jalen Hurts clearing 181?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I'm staying away from Hurts and Eagles receivers because it's like you said, the matchup, they should be able to move the ball through the air against Washington's defense. But again, like they're going to run Saquon, and if they're having success with it, like why go away from it? So maybe this is something that you bet live in game, right? Like if Washington gets an early lead, if Washington is doing a good job against Saquon and the game is calling for Hurts to make some plays through the air, it won't bump up that much, but you'll know that they're going to need to make some plays. So it's so tough to know like which Eagles receiver is going to step up. You would think it would be Brown, Devontae Smith potentially, but Hurts is banged up. And even in these couple games, guys, where he hasn't been this hurt, that they haven't been effective through the air. So yeah, Jacob, I wish I could give you a definitive answer, but I think that's the best way to look at it is you just wait to see how the game plays out, because if the Eagles don't need to throw the ball, there's no reason that they're going to.
Okay, so this might be a good question to kind of bridge the gap between the two games. Told Jacob about this last night. This is my favorite long shot bet of the entire weekend. And I've seen it going around a few different places on social media. Tell me if you think I'm crazy on this, but it's for all 4 teams to score 2 rushing touchdowns in the game. Now, 3 of the 4 had 3 last week in their games. The Commanders, the Eagles, and the Bills all had 3 rushing touchdowns. The Chiefs only had 1. That's going to be probably the toughest leg to complete. But the odds on that, plus 10,000 to complete that. So that's my favorite long shot bet of the weekend. Is that wild and it's like stupid for me to put money down on that?
I mean, at that price, I don't think it is. And look, again, you have some teams that want to run, right? I mean, you feel good about the Eagles getting you that. If the Bills get inside the 2, they're just going to sneak it with Josh Allen, and that's unstoppable. So you'll get that. Washington and Kansas City, like you said, will be the tougher ones. Brian Robinson's been good for them inside the 5. Daniels, as we know, has great legs. But, anytime it's a long shot bet like that, Tommy, you just want something where you can sprinkle a little to make a lot. and it's not out of the realm of possibility, right? So I do like that, especially at those odds. I think it's worth it. Like you said, KC, Washington will probably be the toughest two legs, but I don't think it's crazy at all to think that those two teams couldn't score 2 rushing touchdowns. So I like it.
I love all the long shot bets. Let's transition to the other game. I feel like PJ, I've had a good read on the Chiefs all year, made good money with the Chiefs. I am struggling with this one. I feel like a 47.5 total is high. But I can't figure and I can't convince myself how either team is going to attack this game, because I think what we saw last week from both of them may be totally out the window for this one. I think they can each go at it a million different ways. So I can't get a good read on how this game's going to, like, the flow of the game in order to look at any of these props or anything. I like the Chiefs to cover, but everything else is tough.
So I like the first half under at 23.5 because both of these teams have been exceptional this season at letting the other team make a mistake, right? So it's kind of like, I call this steady Eddie when you're playing against the guy in ping pong, guys, right? When you're just playing a guy that just keeps hitting it back to you. He doesn't try and hit the edges. He doesn't try and slam it. He just keeps hitting it back to you, right? And he's just making the safe play. That's what the Chiefs and Bills do. The Ravens outplayed Buffalo last week, but because of the 3 turnovers, the Bills were able to win the game. The Texans outgained the Chiefs last week, but because the Texans turned the ball over, the Chiefs were able to win that game. So I think both teams are kind of going to ease their way into it. We know Kansas City hasn't scored more than 30 points in a game this season. Buffalo, I think, is going to be pretty conservative because they do not want to make any kind of mistake to give the Chiefs the ball or an extra possession early in the game. So I do like under 23.5 in the first half. However, I think I like the full game over, Jacob, at 47.5 because the Bills have scored more than 24 points in 12 straight games. They scored over 30 against Kansas City. Bills offense is just too consistent. They're too good. Even against that great Chiefs defense, I think they're going to be able to score. And then on the flip side, I think Kansas City is going to be able to score some points too, because I do feel like the Bills defense is a bit overrated. The Ravens didn't punt in that game last week. Their drives only stalled because of the turnovers. So I think Kansas City is going to be able to move the ball. I think they're going to be able to score. So I kind of see like a 10-10 game at halftime. And then I think in the second half, we start to see these offenses kind of unleash it a little bit. And that's the way these games tend to go in the playoffs. These games are high scoring, instant classic, back and forth, shootout duels between Mahomes and Allen. I kind of feel like we're getting the same thing. So I like a first half under, full game over. And I'm with you. I like the Chiefs to win the game. Until somebody can go in there and beat them in Arrowhead, it's tough for me to bet against them.
I certainly didn't envision the lack of overall yardage from Josh Allen in the game last week. I had him over in passing yards. Actually, I think I had him over in passing and rushing yards combined last week. He didn't do a whole lot as far as yardage was concerned in that Ravens game. Is that something you think that can continue for him in this game? I'm sure the Chiefs defense would love that. Or will we see Allen put up a number of yards that we're more accustomed to?
If you like the Bills to win the game, I think it's the yardage we're more accustomed to, because the Bills, it was very Chief-like last week. They did what they had to do and they let the Ravens make the mistakes. Allen didn't turn the ball over. He made plays when he had to. They capitalized on the turnovers, but he did not have to be Superman last week. But this week he's going to have to. He's going to have to against Kansas City if they want to get over the hump, if they want to beat the Chiefs. So I think if you like the Bills, this is the game where, you bet the Allen passing and receiving or rushing yards. I like his over rushing attempts, guys, at 9.5 at even money plus 100. Every time that Josh Allen plays the Chiefs, they run him, and they run him quite a bit. And this is the AFC Championship game. You're 60 minutes from a Super Bowl. They got to use their best player every which way they can. So the ball's going to be in his hands a ton. You're going to get at least 4 or 5 carries from him on short yardage. You're going to get design runs. You're going to get scrambles. So I expect 11, 12 carries from Allen on Sunday. I like his over rushing attempts.
I agree with that. I think both quarterbacks are prone to run in this matchup. Tommy gave you a long shot bet. I'm going to give you a long shot bet here, PJ.
Okay.
So And this one isn't even, it's not crazy like Tommy's, but it's, it's long. Xavier Worthy, it feels like a Worthy game to me. You can get Worthy right now, BetMGM, at 100+ yards, which he has not done this year. I understand that. At 6-1. 6-1. You put that with his over 4.5 receptions, which are 4.5. You can get it up to 7-1 for a Worthy game. And the reason I like it is because I think they're going to pepper him with targets in this game. I think he'll sort of, be what Kelsey was in the last one. He just got to break one off.
Yep.
Fastest dude in football has to break one off at 7-1 odds in a game where I feel like they're going to feature him. There's my long shot play of the week.
Well, and I like it because you think about Buffalo so far in the postseason, right? They give up that long touchdown to Denver, to Troy Franklin. Bateman hit him with a couple of long passes. So, that should be Xavier Worthy this week. And in a game where Buffalo's probably going to have to continue to score, the Chiefs are going to have to continue to score. There are going to be some opportunities there for Worthy. We know he was the only receiver to catch a pass last week for Kansas City. So at the price, it's 6-1. Jacob, I'm with you. I think that's a good long shot.
What about your other favorite bets in this game?
Yeah, so I like the Chiefs on the money line at -130, like I was saying. It's just, Buffalo might be the better team. The margin of error, though, that you have to beat Kansas City, especially on the road, is just so slim. And these teams, I think it's all mental at this point. Like one turnover almost feels like 3 against the Chiefs. So until somebody can knock them off, I can't bet against them. I do like the Chiefs in the game. I told you guys I like Josh Allen over rushing attempts. I think that's a good bet. I also like Bucker over 1.5 field goals as well. Because, again, I do think the Chiefs are going to be able to move the ball. They have not been as good a red zone team as we have seen throughout the years. They've been settling for way more field goals than we've seen in the Mahomes and Andy Reid era. So I think over 1.5 field goals for Bucker, I think that's another good bet as well.
PJ, appreciate it. Check out the Send It In podcast, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, presented by BetMGM. Thanks for being here. We got a Super Bowl. We'll get 2 weeks to talk about the Super Bowl, PJ. Talk to you next week.
Yep. See you guys next week. Take care.
Coming right back. Should have Tim Fitzgerald next. Don't go away.
"66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust." Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20+ flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
And now, digging deeper with the teams you follow, it's another Sports Daily Insider interview on KFH.
And welcome back in to Sports Daily, everybody. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor with you, along with Tim Fitzgerald, our KState Insider. If you're on your way into work, you want to keep listening to this full interview or anything else you might miss on the show, you can do that. Go to the Odyssey app, search Sports Daily, search KFH, and download the show and listen to it anytime you want. Fitz, welcome in. Always a pleasure to have you. Always curious about all sorts of things in life. What is the meaning of life, Fitz? Let's just start there. What is the meaning of life? And, you know, we never know what we're going to get with Fitz.
You go through life and you buy socks. That's pretty much it. You get socks and you lose one at a time. And
one gets a hole in it. Yeah.
And then I'm hopeful that when I pass away, my former dogs, family members, and lost socks will greet me there.
I'm going to ask you a question about socks. This is a good, we'll get to the important things in just a second. I wonder this all the time. Am I the only person that will wear a sock with a hole like the size of a silver dollar in it? Like, why do we cling to these things? It'd be so easy to just get a new pair of socks. Why do I have so many holes in my socks and in my underwear? Am I alone in that, or is that like a thing that guys do in general?
I don't. Tommy, do you do that? I don't do that.
No, I don't.
Okay, it's a me thing then. Okay, just checking. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Fitz, KState last night they had an opportunity, a really, really good opportunity. We talked about this in the first hour. I do think there's a difference in what we've seen through the second half of KU, basically through that entire game last night, and let's say what we saw against Houston. I do think the team feels more inspired, at least at this point, and more capable of winning some Big 12 games maybe we didn't think they had a chance at 2-3 weeks ago.
they've definitely made progress. And if you're a gambler, they've covered the last 3 games. Woo! But it's not enough for a lot of fans. They want to see the W's, but in talking to Jerome Tang, he sees the progress. I think they felt like they had a really good shot last night, and they did. And then Baylor just kind of took it to them, and K-State is possibly the worst final 5-minute team I've ever seen in my life. They went like 3.5 minutes into the game last night without scoring. They scored like 4 points and a long stretch there towards the end. And as Jerome Tang though said in postgame, it wasn't really offense that did them in. Baylor scored like 44 points in the second half, guys. Yeah. They did a great job in the first half of bottling up Baylor. Baylor went from shooting 25% in the first half to 60% in the second half. And maybe a lot of that was just Baylor shot the rock better. But these are trends now we're beginning to see that this K-State team fades. And they're going to have to figure that one out. And they better figure it out quick because they've got, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. And pretty soon they're going to run into Kansas, Arizona, and it's just going to be a gauntlet of teams. They've got a lot of ahead of them that they need to keep getting better if they want to be competitive in the next, 3 weeks.
I thought about this a lot during the Sunflower Showdown on Saturday that, it would have been really easy for the Wildcats to just, fold up like a cheap lawn chair after they got punched in the mouth when the game started by the Jayhawks. And they didn't. They hung tough. And Coleman Hawkins had probably his best game as a Wildcat. Of course, Kansas was missing KJ Adams, and so there was definitely that whole aspect of it as well. But I felt like they showed that heart and that intensity to try to get back in the game, cut the lead, to 6 a couple of different moments. And I thought that effort, for the most part, carried over into the game last night as well. I wonder, what is it going to take to just get over that hump then? And I know you mentioned the final 5 minutes of the Baylor game last night, but man, at least in the KU game on Saturday, they didn't start well. And yeah, they had to pull themselves out of a hole, but it would have been really easy to just kind of go home and say, it's not going to be our night.
Right. Right. And that's been the big change is this team looks like it wants to compete. In the past, before this latest stretch, it didn't even look like they were interested in competing. They didn't seem to be engaged in any way in the game. They're engaged. Are they great? No, they're not great. They're not a great team. They have underperformed what we thought they would be, even when they're good. And I think they're beginning to find an identity. They're beginning to use more pieces selectively. We saw David Castillo play some critical minutes again last night, and I think you just need to keep putting him out there. And for all of those thoughts that it's a transfer portal, Baylor had a freshman drop 30 on K-State last night. Right. So those players still exist. They might be hard to find, but I think Jerome Tang's ready to start the process of doing it in a more rounded way instead of just with transfer portal guys. And you know what? It's going to be a difficult transition because they got themselves in the middle of a river now, and they're going to change horses, and it ain't going to be pretty for at least a full year. And that's just the reality of the situation they're in. They tried something that I think a lot of us thought would work, and it hasn't worked. It hasn't really worked around college basketball. And now they've got to change systems, and boy, it ain't going to be easy rebuilding a roster in the way they need to because they just haven't put the time in on high school recruiting that they need to. And that's another big swing and miss by this staff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's a chance to recover from it. At least the effort's there. Tim, I want to talk about the college football playoff in year one. We didn't have time to get to this last week. You like to get on, Twitter and fight with fans from other parts of the country about what their
other parts of the state.
But not when it comes to the CFP. When it comes to the CFP, you're picking fights with the SEC. You're picking fights with the Big Ten. What do you like in totality, though? Like, this wasn't the Big 12's year. We knew it wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure a team needed to be there other than Arizona State in all reality. We got two teams in a championship game that wouldn't have been there before. We found in a very real way who the best team was. I think we need to play the game sooner.
Yes.
Sure. Outside of that, though, format-wise, are you happy with how this played out and shook out as far as which teams were there and those sorts of things, or is there still work to be done?
There's work to be done. I think we, first of all, let me say, I think this was by far the best thing we've had.
Yeah.
This was great. Guys, we had 11 college football games instead of 3. I mean, that's huge. And I loved every game, even the blowouts. But I think we did find a couple things here that the bye plan, I even though I'm a Big 12 guy, I think you need to look at it and say, look, we're going to give the top 4 teams a bye. And like I've said repeatedly on my YouTube channel and my website that, hey, I think if you're a conference champion, you get a home game. You may not get a bye, but whatever the seedings are, it doesn't matter. You get a home game. You're a conference champion. And I think that's the good compromise. But we also saw that the 4 teams that got byes lost. And that needs to be addressed because we're not just talking about, Arizona State losing as maybe an overseeded conference champion. We're talking about the top schools in the bracket also lost. So it's something they'll need to look at. Chris Kleiman has told me repeatedly they need to just go to 16, but we need to figure out the schedule a little bit better. There's a whole daisy chain of changes they need to make. Step 1 is to get all the conferences on the same page with the amount of conference games they're playing. And I think the number of power conference teams you play should be rewarded or punished. And then go to 16 and maybe we need to go back to 11 regular season games. And, at the end of the year, I think even the ACC is looking at conference championship, trying to do something different. Maybe you just go to 11 games and then the last week is scheduled on the fly. 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3, and everyone else plays each other within your conference. And that gives you the best chance to move teams forward, and everyone gets that, last week. And if you're number, say in the Big 12, you're number 15 and number 16, you get to play each other, maybe unless you've played already, and sort out who's the better of the bad. I think that would be a really fun way to do it on the last week. You wouldn't know who you're playing.
Also prevents Indiana, right? And it prevents a bad team that played a soft schedule from sneaking in there.
Yeah, you're right. It forces you.
I shouldn't say bad team, but
they're a good team. They were, but they were really untested. And look, I'm not going to fault anyone for beating the teams you should beat.
Right.
A lot of teams don't do that, including the national champion.
Yeah.
And they did that. And I think that they need to kind of reimagine not just college football, guys, but I've got this thing. I want to do a project on reimagining college athletics and the calendar, mostly, of what we're doing and how we're going about it. Because I think it can be better for the student athletes and better for the fans and better, honestly, for the TV partners to have more year-round type programming. So we'll see what they look at doing. I think they might leave it alone for a year, but I know that it's going to be a lot calmer with changes because the SEC stunk. Because if they had shown that they were really good and didn't have enough spots, all hell would break loose.
Yeah.
But they weren't very good, and it'll be calm. But I think that it says a lot about college athletics, and I'll shut up after this, that we're all happy the SEC, outside the SEC, of course, didn't make it to the final again, but somehow we're celebrating Ohio State as a victory for the little guy.
Yeah.
What?
Hey, but I mean, by the way, like real quick, did you ever think we'd be talking about national champion Will Howard?
No, but my God, did he transform into college football playoff Tom Brady or what?
Yeah.
I mean, he just ripped through that bracket. That was as brilliant a quarterback play. I'm going to go out on a limb here. that was as brilliant of quarterback play at the college level I've seen over a 4-game stretch against really good opponents, probably in my memory. I don't remember ever seeing a quarterback do what Will Howard did, and maybe it's just because nobody's had that opportunity to do it in a playoff format like that. But it was absolutely brilliant. He was calm, collected, and he just distributed the ball to his guys. And critics say he's like the 8th best guy on that offense. So there's more talent on that offense. Will Howard just along for the ride. Folks, he was the MVP. And he was the MVP for a reason because, he might not be the highest NFL rated talent on that offense, but he put it all together. He was the thing that connected it all, and he was brilliant. He really was. I'm really happy for the kid. He's a great young man.
Poster boy for all the good things about the transfer portal. In my opinion.
Yes.
All right, Fitz, what do you guys have going at GoPowerCat.com?
Well, we're going to talk about a little basketball. That always drives those subscriptions, and we've gone to a new podcast format. We just tried to, try something out, and we're now doing, instead of one big podcast, we're doing 3 smaller ones. We did a women's basketball one that was my nephew Ethan who covers that for us. It was brilliant, and then it was his podcast debut, and then we've got a football one breaking loose here in just an hour, I think, and then, or I guess it's 2 hours now that you guys are morning creatures. And then we have got a basketball one coming up and more coverage. Heck, they play again on Saturday. It just doesn't stop.
Here we go. GoPowerCat.com. Thanks, Fitz. We're coming right back with more Sports Daily right after this.
Yes, boys.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the